This is what we're up to today, and I'm really glad you liked everything. But there is one more thing that I want to talk about.
I still remember the sheer excitement of unboxing a new device back in the day. There was a kind of magic in peeling the plastic off a fresh phone and powering it on for the very first time. If you were a tech fan a decade ago, you know exactly what I mean. The launch of a new iPhone or the latest Android phone felt like a huge event, almost like a holiday. We'd watch grainy early YouTube videos of tech unboxings and launch day lineups with pure hype. Every device back then had something radically different. One year it was a phone with a slide-out keyboard, the next year a phone with a crazy curved screen. Tech felt exciting. It seemed each new device opened a door to the future, something we hadn't seen before. That spark made being a tech enthusiast genuinely fun. I'm nostalgic about rushing to read live blogs of Apple keynotes or staying up late to catch an unboxing video as soon as it dropped. Getting new tech felt like Christmas morning. The anticipation was half the joy. But fast forward to today and things have changed. That wide-eyed wonder isn't as strong now. New tech launches happen every year, sure, but I don't get anywhere close to the same feeling I did when I, say, unboxed my first iPhone. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of us feel like modern tech, especially phones, tablets, and laptops, have become kind of boring or predictable. So what exactly happened? Why does tech feel so boring now? Let's break it down and see if we can figure out where the magic went and maybe how we can bring it back. One big reason is that tech design and performance have plateaued. In other words, today's new devices aren't dramatically different from last year's devices, or even the ones from a few years ago. Walk into any electronics store or scroll through phone listings online, and you might notice a recurring theme. Almost every smartphone is a slab of glass and metal with a big touchscreen on the front and a cluster of cameras on the back. Sure, they come in different sizes or colors, but the fundamental design has converged into one formula that works. After more than a decade of iteration, phone makers have settled on the sleek rectangle as the optional shape and refined it to near perfection. Great for consistency, but not so great for excitement. And because of this, every year's new phone looks and feels a lot like last year's phone. The differences are usually under the hood or in minor style tweaks. Remember when phones used to flip, slide, or sport quirky physical keyboards? That era is long gone. Now almost every device follows the same template. Prior to the iPhone's dominance, cell phones came in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Some with full QWERTY keyboards, some that rotated or flipped open, even some experimental designs. There was a novelty in just seeing what a new phone would look like. These days, it's hard to tell two phones apart without reading the logo. If I put the latest iPhones and the latest Samsungs side by side on a table, you might have to squint to figure out which is which if you're not super tech oriented. But this isn't just about looks either. Performance has also plateaued in a very similar way. Think about it. Even a mid-range smartphone today is incredibly powerful. Processors are super fast, screens are high definition and gorgeous, and cameras on phones have reached near professional quality. At this point, each new generation only brings tiny improvements. Last year's phone was already pretty great, so this year's model is maybe 10% faster or has a slightly better camera, or the battery lasts an hour longer. Those are nice gains, yes, but they don't feel mind-blowing. We've kind of hit a ceiling for how much better a rectangular slab can get, at least with current technology. Hardware advancements are now yielding diminishing returns. Processors and displays are so advanced that there's only so much more you can do. This is a far cry from earlier days when doubling your phone's performance or adding a brand new capability, like a front-facing camera, was still possible. Today, a new device is often just a polished version of what we already have. That wow factor is harder to come by when the baseline is already very high and very familiar. There are still some attempts at shaking things up like foldable phones or dual screen devices, but so far, those are very niche and very expensive, and not exactly must-have upgrades for most people. The mainstream devices, the ones most of us use, stick to the safe, proven design, and honestly, can we blame the manufacturers? A flashy, radical new design is risky and costly, and it might flop if people don't accept it. Meanwhile, a refined version of last year's hit phone is a safe bet that will sell. So we end up in a cycle where companies play it safe and we get incremental tweaks instead of bold leaps. The result is tech starts feeling repetitive. It's reliable and mature, sure, but it doesn't make our jaws drop anymore. To put it another way, the smartphone and by extension tablets and laptops has matured as a product. It's like we've seen this movie before, and now it's just minor remixes. Even tech reviewers joke about it. Peak smartphone is a term that gets thrown around a lot these days. In fact, industry watchers have noted that smartphone sales are slowing down because people don't feel the urge to upgrade as often when the new models aren't that different. When the new thing isn't dramatically new, the excitement naturally dwindles. Another big reason tech feels boring now is what I call the spec sheet takeover. Over the years, a lot of the excitement has shifted from how a device makes you feel or what new experience it enables to a sterile checklist of specifications. These days, when a new phone or laptop comes out, the conversation immediately zooms in on numbers, CPU clock speed, RAM amount, camera megapixels, screen resolution, battery milliamp hours, you name it. Don't get me wrong, those specs are important and fun to watch and create as a tech creator, but the overemphasis on specs can suck the joy right out of tech. It turns new tech launches into Excel spreadsheets, and no one wants that. I hate Excel. If you follow tech media or forums, you've probably seen how every release becomes a comparison game. Does it have the latest Snapdragon chip? How does its camera sensor size compare to the rival brand? If one spec is slightly lower on paper, it gets slated as a disappointment. We've gotten to a point where some enthusiasts obsess over specs so much that it becomes toxic to their enjoyment of tech. And I'll admit, I've fallen into this trap too. I've caught myself judging a device before I even touch it, like this one. It's like we're reading off a menu of parts instead of savoring the actual experience of the device. Back when tech felt more magical, if you will, we weren't fixed on whether a phone had 8 gigs of RAM, 12 gigs of RAM, partly because such discussions barely existed in the mainstream. We cared about what new thing it could do or how it would change our daily life. Now it sometimes feels like the heart of tech excitement has been replaced with cold numbers and benchmark scores. The irony is that most of those spec bumps don't even translate to a dramatically better user experience for the average person. For example, a phone with 12 gigs of RAM isn't visibly more fun to use than one with 8 gigs of RAM, for checking social media at least, but the spec sheet race creates this illusion that bigger is always better. We chase the best specs as if that's the only metric that matters. This spec-centric mindset also means that companies market their devices in terms of more cores, higher refresh rates. Again, those are nice improvements, but when everyone is doing the same thing, it all blends together. The excitement of new tech gets reduced to an argument about whose spec sheet has the bigger numbers. And if you're not a spec nerd, it's frankly boring. It's hard to get emotionally fired up about a device just because it has a slightly faster processor, you know? The soul of the device, what makes it uniquely enjoyable, gets lost in the chatter about specs. I find this especially true for smartphones specifically. Think about launch events today. They'll spend a chunk of time bragging that their new phone has like 108 megapixels versus 64 or whatever, or a screen that's, X% brighter. But 10 years ago, a new phone might introduce an entirely new capability, like video calling on a phone or a fingerprint scanner for the first time. But now it's mostly spec iterations. It's hard to feel the same awe when the narrative is, this is basically last year's device, but with a few spec bumps and tweaks. To be fair, part of this is on us as the tech community. We got what we asked for in a sense. We demanded faster, better, more value for money, and companies delivered on those demands year after year. We measured everything we do side by side, camera pixel peeping, we ranked device by benchmark scores. In doing so, maybe we've taken some of the spontaneity and fun out of the game. When you treat tech like a collection of stats to be min-maxed, you might miss the simple joy of, say, how a phone feels in your hand or how a new app can spark some kind of delight. It's a perspective shift, one that might be making tech feel boring, even when the tech itself is pretty amazing. Finally, we have to talk about the role of social media in the modern tech news cycle. In some ways, we've become too good at sharing information about new tech, to the point that it backfires on our excitement. Think about how we learn about upcoming devices now. Leaks and rumors are everywhere, months, even years before a product actually launches. By the time a company is on stage unveiling the device, chances are we've already seen blurry pictures of it, read the spec sheet from an anonymous source, and heard every prediction about exactly what incremental upgrades it will have. The element of surprise is practically gone. For instance, it's almost routine now that the entire design of the next flagship phone leaks online well ahead of the official announcement. There's no dramatic one more thing moment because we saw that thing on Twitter weeks ago. The constant flow of leaks and insider info creates hype, but also fatigue. We get so saturated with the device before it even comes out that when it finally does, the reaction is, yeah, that looks exactly like the photos I saw. Launch events turn into confirmations of what we already knew, rather than genuinely new reveals. As a result, the hype peaks too early and then fizzles. By launch day, we might already be a little bored of hearing about the product. Social media also amplifies negativity and comparison in a way that can dull excitement. As soon as a new device is announced, YouTubers, bloggers, and Twitter pundits are out in force dissecting it. Every tiny flaw or missing feature will be loudly pointed out within hours. The narrative might become, it's only a minor upgrade, or why didn't they include this, or that's boring. When you hear that in chorus repeatedly, it validates any lack of enthusiasm you have. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone says it's boring, so it feels boring. In the old days, you might have had a chance to form your own impression by actually trying the device, or at least waiting for a comprehensive review in like a magazine or something. Now the hot takes fly fast and furious, and they often skew negative because that gets clicks. Social media and smartphones have kind of soaked into every moment. We're never really disconnected. One weird side effect of this constant immersion is that the novelty wears off. The more time you spend around something, the less you notice it. Our smartphones have basically become extensions of ourselves, which is good and bad, but it also means they're not special curiosities anymore. They're just there. It's hard to feel the same excitement about something that you literally check 100 to 150 times a day. In a sense, we've become desensitized. New tech comes, we scroll past it in our feed, maybe give it a quick like or a snarky comment, and move on to the next bit of content within seconds. The attention economy doesn't really encourage deep excitement. It encourages quick surface level reactions, and then on to the next thing. So social media has this double-edged effect. It builds hype, but also accelerates disappointment. It's taken a lot of the mystery out of tech launches, and it's made us all hyper-aware of how incremental each update is. In short, the hype cycle now moves so fast that by the time something actually releases, a lot of us are already over it. Okay, so now that we've had a good long rant about why tech feels boring, let's end on a hopeful note. Does tech really have to be boring? I don't think so. In fact, I'd argue that the magic is still there. We just have to adjust our perspective to see it. After all, if you really pause and think about it, the devices we have today are outrageously advanced and capable. We carry around supercomputers in our pockets that connect us to all the world's knowledge, lets us instantly communicate with anyone, takes stunning photos, and provides endless entertainment. Maybe we've gotten a bit jaded, but that's on us to fix. One way to rekindle the excitement is to reframe how we look at new tech. Try focusing on what's cool about it in its own right. Even a small improvement can be delightful if you experience it on your own terms rather than through the lens of online comparisons. For example, maybe the new phone's design is the same, but its camera does in fact have a significant upgrade, so get out there and use it and capture some memories. Or appreciate how your new laptop's battery lets you work at a cafe for hours without having to plug in or something, giving you more freedom than you had with your last laptop. These might sound like little things, but if you adopt a mindset of appreciating the incremental improvements for what they enable you to do, it can bring back some of that childlike tech joy. Sometimes you can find tech exciting again by changing how you interact with it too. If smartphones bore you, try diving into a totally new category of tech device. Pick up a Raspberry Pi and tinker with a DIY project, or if you've never tried virtual reality, give it a shot. Even old tech can be fun if it's new to you. Play with a drone, try a 3D printer, explore retro gaming on an old console. Tech is a very broad field, and there's always something novel if you look beyond the mainstream churn of phones and laptops these days. Often it's not that tech is boring, it's that the specific corner of tech we've been focused on got routine. So maybe we just need to walk into a different corner. Also consider dialing back the constant stream of leaks and spec obsession we talked about. It might sound strange, but avoiding spoilers can make a product launch enjoyable again. Maybe next time there's a big phone coming, don't click on every leak article or block certain words on Twitter. Allow yourself to be surprised when the official announcement happens. It's a bit like not watching trailers for a movie you know you're going to go see. Go in fresh, and you might feel the thrill that comes with not knowing exactly what to expect. Similarly, once you have a new device, avoid immediately comparing it side by side with your old one or with a rival device. First, just use it for a few days. as a new experience. Notice the things that make you smile. Remember, enjoyment is subjective and personal. It's okay to love a device because it fits your life well, even if on paper it's only a minor upgrade. Ultimately, a lot of the boring tech feeling can be overcome by reconnecting with why you love tech in the first place. Was it the sense of possibility, the aesthetics, the empowerment of having tools to create or connect? Whatever it was, try to tap back into that. For me, I've started taking more time to just use devices, exploring apps, customizing settings, doing the little things, little projects that remind me these aren't just products to review and shelve, they're fun and powerful tools that can enrich my life. When I shift into that playful mindset, even a supposedly boring incremental update can surprise me with moments of delight. So in conclusion, yes, tech today can feel boring compared to the past when everything was new and shiny, but part of that is a testament of how far we've actually come. We're literally living in the future that used to amaze us, and we've just gotten used to it. The excitement isn't gone, it's just become quieter and more personal. We might not have the wild leaps every year, but we have steady progress that still brings new capabilities. If we look closely by adjusting our perspective, focusing on personal enjoyment over spec sheet one-upmanship, and occasionally stepping outside our tech comfort zone like with an Android versus an iPhone, we can discover that same joy in tech again. After all, technology is ultimately what we make of it. Boring or exciting, it's our choice in how we engage with it. As a longtime tech lover, I'm choosing to find that old tech feeling in the little things. And you know what? The feeling is still very much there. You just have to remember how to see it. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you got some sort of enjoyment out of this discussion style video, but as always, that is enough watching, enough consuming content, guys. Get out there, find that tech, find that love for it again, and go make something yourself. I'll see you all in the next video.
Yeah.